Hello, hello, and welcome back to Bearing Birth, a birth story podcast highlighting the emotional impact of birth, the immediate postpartum period, and the years beyond. I'm Jordan, a doula specializing in postpartum support.
And I'm Sophie, a perinatal mental health therapist. Today, we have a very special episode for me especially because we're interviewing my grandma, Maxine. This episode was actually recorded in September 2023 during a visit where my grandparents came up to spend some time with us and their great-grandchild, Ruby. Since we don't have any family up in Portland, I am so appreciative that they have made the effort a few times now to come up. And this is a really tender conversation because my grandma talks about the birth story of my dad, who sadly passed away from brain cancer in 2014. I know there is a lot of grief for both of us in different ways, and so it was really meaningful for me to be able to have my grandma on the podcast and talk to her in this way.
It was really such a special episode, and it was so nice to be able to meet your grandma for me as well. And I just overall really love how this podcast gives us the opportunity to meet each other's people. And so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I especially appreciated hearing how Maxine went against the grain in terms of gender roles and such a long time ago when it was
she's
unheard
a badass.
of. Yeah.
Sorry for swearing, Grandma, but you're pretty awesome.
It was honestly so inspiring, and it just must have taken so much courage back then. And recording this episode and listening back to it made me think that maybe my grandma would like to come on someday.
I would love to chat with your grandma. That would be cool. Content warnings and themes discussed in this episode include episiotomy, miscarriage, minimal medical consent, and outdated medical practices.
Please enjoy this next episode with Maxine. And because the episode is under 40 minutes, we will be releasing it all at once, so we won't have part 2 later in the month.
Thank you, Grandma. I'm looking forward to seeing you and listening to this episode together in just a few short weeks.
Enjoy!
A doula and a therapist are sitting down to talk about birth. A doula and a therapist are sitting down to talk about birth.
How do you feel about being on?
I feel fine.
Have you ever done a podcast
No.
before? The first time. Well, thanks for coming on, Grandma.
Oh, you're welcome, Sophie.
We're curious about a birth story that you have that you want to share. Maybe you could start by saying how long ago you gave birth last.
Well, our first child was born in 1966, so that was quite a while ago, and I had a nice pregnancy, except I can remember vomiting out the window and vomiting in parking lots the first 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
Other than that, it was a good pregnancy.
Oh, this was with my dad?
Your dad, yes.
So you felt really sick the first 3 months?
The first 3 months, yeah.
And
Out
then
the
it went
window,
away.
that's not fun.
No, that wasn't fun. I was on my way to work, too. My husband was driving, and he couldn't get to a parking lot fast enough.
Oh, no. And then you just did it out the window and
Yes, I did.
kept going to work?
Yes.
Is there a story that you would want to share from sort of start to finish, like what the pregnancy was like and then the labor?
Oh, the pregnancy was nice, and I can remember raking leaves about the time he was due. And then I worked on a Friday and started having contractions and got to the hospital. And 4 hours later, he was born.
So it
It
was
was
quick.
very quick
Wow.
and very easy. The thing is, we had an old-time family doctor that I used that was Max's mother's doctor. And he had monkeys that he dressed up because I saw pictures of them on his desk.
Wow.
So I wasn't sure what kind of doctor this was. But anyway, he had done an episiotomy, and the nurses kept saying, and then he left. And the nurses were saying, is he coming back? I guess to stitch me back up. They had to go get him.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a little awkward. Max, of course, in those days couldn't come in.
Yeah.
And so he was pacing the floor outside, wondering what was going on.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, we had a boy, and that's when we found out. Max found out through the nurses, I guess.
Wow.
So he didn't find out from you?
No,
Wow. So he's outside of the...
I didn't see him for quite a while. Yeah.
What was that like being by yourself?
Yeah, I was a little scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem what feels natural in that
Right.
moment.
Right. Yeah, I would have liked to have had him near me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it was that way for a long time, though.
Yes, it was.
Was it like that for all of your births?
The second one, Max wasn't with me either, and that was 2 hours long. And that was another boy.
That's so fast.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the doctor, that was the last baby he ever delivered, my first baby. And then this doctor, it was the last baby he was going to deliver because he was moving down south to be more of a plastic surgeon.
Oh, wow.
And then when Sarah came along, that was his last two. And so I don't know what we did to these doctors, but it was a last pregnancy for all three of them.
Wow.
But anyway,
That's interesting.
yes.
Did you find that out before or after you gave birth?
After, I think it was.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
not comforting at
Yeah,
all.
no. Anyway, Andy was an easy birth. That was, and I don't remember being sick with him. And it was 2 hours long. And then we moved to the country. And when I was pregnant with Sarah, my third, I really said, we have to hurry to the hospital because I could feel contractions coming pretty strong. And we were 30 minutes away. And so we got to the hospital and she was born within 30 minutes. So it was real quick. And Max was able to be with me in that room.
Yeah.
And that was in 1975.
Okay. What was that car ride like?
It was very painful. I can remember kind of sitting up off the seat.
Like kind of bracing.
And then down again. And then up off the seat and down. But we got there.
Yeah.
That's good.
So you didn't know the doctor who delivered my dad? You just met him the first time?
Yeah, when I was pregnant. Yeah, it was Max's mother's doctor.
Wow, family doctor.
Yeah, yeah, and he was old then and had monkeys
That's so interesting.
that he dressed.
What was going through your mind when you saw that?
I wonder if I picked the right doctor.
And it's kind of like you can't pick another one. And
No,
you have
no,
to go
it was kind of late.
So you saw the monkey pictures when you were in labor?
Yes,
Oh.
well, no, when I would meet with him in his office,
Oh.
he had pictures on his desk, and they were dressed up. And
Wow.
So you met with him during your pregnancy?
yes,
Oh, I thought you had just met him at the birth.
no.
And there's this guy with like monkeys. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh.
I don't remember monthly visits like I did with Sarah's pregnancy. Yeah, I think it was just a couple of visits. I don't remember too many of them.
Do you remember what the contractions felt like?
They were pretty strong because I didn't have a whole lot of time. Yeah. I remember water breaking. Yeah.
That's so fast. 4 hours.
Yeah, it was fast.
The first one. Had you had any pain medication or like what was the sort of progression of?
I remember being shaved and maybe I had a shot. I don't remember that.
They shaved you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you have any idea as to why they did that?
No, I just figured it was part of the routine.
Did they ask you if they could
No.
shave you? Interesting. How was that for you to not?
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it because I was pretty close to delivering and
Yeah. Makes you wonder why you have to be shaved down there to have a baby, right? Like,
There's some reason that they don't do it anymore.
yeah.
Unless you have a C-section.
Yeah. Interesting. And so there was no aid in managing the pain.
no.
Wow.
Other than an episiotomy.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
that's not a pain management, but
Did you have any pain management for the tearing afterwards? Like the stitches?
I don't remember. I don't remember anything hurting, but we're talking 50-something years ago.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think about your births ever?
yeah, I loved him. In fact, when Danny was born, I just wanted to do it again.
Oh,
it was
wow.
so exciting.
What did you like about it?
That I had this human being that was part of my husband and me, and he was beautiful and healthy, and with God's help, we created him. So we just were in awe of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it is quite a magical experience. Do you remember, like, visually what that looked like, or is it more of a feeling experiencing that the first time?
I just felt great. Just felt like this is just the most exciting thing I've ever done.
Did you feel powerful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time passed between your births?
The boys were about 4.5 years apart. And then my daughter and second son were more like 3 years apart. Yeah.
For your second birth, did you go into planning for your birth just like, oh, I've done this before, I got this?
Yes, but this time I got a real obstetrician.
Okay.
Yeah, he was pretty famous in our town. And so I thought I had the real cream of the crop doctor. But then he left to be a plastic surgeon, so I'm not sure why. But anyway, and I didn't really have him for the delivery. I had his partner, who I didn't really know. So I was disappointed in that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it all turned out great. So
Yeah. And then with Sarah, my aunt, your daughter, what was it like having a girl after two boys?
well, she was born on Thanksgiving Day that year.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband's family was having a big gathering at a church, a potluck lunch. And I remember them bringing me a piece of pumpkin pie. So that was...
At the hospital?
Yeah, at the hospital. But having a girl, it was just fun because we knew that was it. We weren't going to have any more.
Yeah. Had you planned on having 3? And then...
3 sounded fine. Yeah, we didn't really plan it. I had a miscarriage between the boys, a complete spontaneous abortion, they called it. And I figured 3 kids was enough.
Yeah, that felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I feel bad about with your dad, though, Sophie, is they didn't have La Leche League breastfeeding help. And so I would try the breastfeeding, but I worried about him getting enough. Was he getting enough?
Yeah.
Is this, and then they would say, well, start solid foods at 3 months, the baby cereal. So I started that. And then I just worried the whole time that he wasn't getting enough and there wasn't much information out there about breastfeeding. So I think I probably gave it up after probably 6 months or so because I just worried too much about whether I was doing it right.
It's hard to know how much comes out. And if there's nobody there to support you,
that's right.
You feel alone.
And once you start solid foods, then your milk diminishes. So it was kind of a sad deal because I breastfed Andy for about a year and Sarah about 1.5 years. And I wish I had done more with your dad. So
yeah,
it's a pretty complex thing to just be left for everyone to just figure out on their own, which is unfortunate. It sounds like I think trying for 6 months, though, is a pretty good effort.
I tried.
I really think so. I mean, that's tough.
I had feelings
with no
of
support.
giving up after 2 weeks. It's really, really hard. No one tells you how much it hurts in the beginning. And you just have to somehow find the strength that within you to keep going somehow. If you don't have support, I can't.
And I think when he started the solid food at such a young age, 3 months, I got engorged. And that was painful. And I really wanted to do it, but I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So
it's great that there's a lot more types of support out there now.
Yes, yeah. Then I went to La Leche League meetings when they started up.
That's great.
What was that like?
It was good.
Was that with the next 2 kids?
Yes.
Andy and Sarah? Yeah.
I'm not sure about Andy, but I know I think it probably was with Andy, 1975 and 1973.
Well, it seems like it made a difference for you personally.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like really hard on yourself because of that? I mean, you did the best that you could at the time with the resources that you had. That's, it's hard. Do you feel like he was okay? My dad?
Yeah. Your dad was darling.
But you would have liked to do something different. And it sounds like you were able to do that with the next 2 kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you find anything else challenging in postpartum from your first birth?
There was lots to do in those days because we didn't have Pampers. We had real diapers and diaper pails and lots of washing to do and lots of folding of diapers. And
Can you share more about that? What is a real diaper?
it's a cloth, cotton cloth, and you folded it like a kite. And and you had a diaper pill that would get stinky, so I would put Pine Sol in it. And then when it got really full, you did a whole load of wash, and then you had a whole load to fold and put away.
Wow, the times changed. Now what do you think when you look at me changing Ruby with these
Pampers?
Yeah.
Well, I did Pampers or something like that with Sarah, but there wasn't any for Danny, or I don't think for Andy.
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage when you're
Yes.
probably sleep deprived.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. And then you fixed them with like a clothespin or safety
Yeah, you
pin?
had diaper pins.
Wow.
And then you put on plastic pants on top of that.
Oh, okay.
So, and they weren't real soft and comfortable looking.
Yeah. Thinking about what that must have been like. It's just such a procedure. And
Yes,
so-
and I don't think it felt that great for the baby to have a plastic, like, shower cap thing on top of a diaper.
Yeah.
Now you have, cloth diapers that are more and more popular, that have snaps in it and easier to wash, and you have like a diaper service and
And the
things like
water,
that.
the waterproof lining is
Yeah.
a lot more comfortable, I would imagine now, but things have come a long way.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you experienced during your births that you watched either of your kids with us, your grandkids, or I don't know, me with your great grandchild that you wished you had when you in postpartum, such as an ease to diapers or being asked for your consent before doing something? Consent is really important nowadays.
Yes, it is. I just think it's wonderful that dads take such a big part. And in my situation, I had a very unusual husband because he was vacuuming and he was changing diapers when that was unheard of. I mean, men didn't do that. And I had a husband that did. And then I see you and I see my daughter with your husbands, and they're very helpful. And I'm glad that I had one too, because that was real rare in those days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, really rare.
It makes a world of difference, it seems.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, how you need somebody to help when you're recovering.
That's
and
right.
Taking care of the baby, and who's going to do the house
Right.
stuff? Yeah.
During a boatload of physical recovery.
Like my grandpa's both very special, and also it's like the thing you should be doing, right? Like
Right.
The other parent
Right.
should be
It
hopefully
makes sense.
helping. It makes sense.
Right. Well, I remember before we even had kids, he would be vacuuming or doing things around the house. And my dad never did that. He did the yard work, period. That was it. And so I went to a counselor at the junior college and said, I don't know about this. Is this okay that my husband is doing these kind of womanly jobs? Or should I be saying, no, don't do that? And he said, the best advice to me is you define your own marriage. And we did from that point on. If Max felt like vacuuming, he vacuumed it. If he wanted to change a diaper, he did it. And I could care less. And if I wanted to do yard work, I did. And in those days, that was real rare.
That's so interesting that
Yeah.
you asked somebody else if that was okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
Because
glad
it
that
sure
was-
wasn't at my house.
Yeah. I'm glad that was the advice you got.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I don't know, that really changed me because when I was working as a young wife, I saw the warehouseman getting paid more than I was getting, and I was doing just as much work, I felt. So I went and asked my boss. I said, I don't think it's fair that they're getting this much an hour and I get this much an hour because I'm working just as hard. And by George, he agreed with me, and I got the raise.
Wow.
And that was rare too, to speak up and and want equality.
It's really important. Can I ask you that? Well, yes, hello.
And I was a punk kid. I was, 19 or 20 probably. And
I reached out to hold your hand and also to say that the mics are very sensitive. So when you do this, it picks everything up.
Oh, no, it's okay. It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, we're at the beginning would hit everything. And
Yeah.
when I edit it, it's bing, bong, bing. So, yeah.
I feel like you fostered such a great balance of power in your relationship, and then you took that into your work, and it paid off. And
yes,
I think
it did.
that's
And
great.
I think it's pretty awesome that I was able to do that, because women just didn't do those things. And I'm awesome that my husband did the things he did. So.
What was it like going back to work after giving birth? How long, how soon did you go back to work?
I didn't like it at all. I remember my husband looking at the bassinet with our firstborn. I can't be changing tires. I have to go back to school. So he went back to school and I went back to work. And I didn't like it at all, but at least he was home with Danny, our firstborn, a lot. Because he'd only go to school maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week and home the rest of the time. Anyway, he was home babysitting, and I knew he was in good care. But when we had to get a babysitter, I didn't like that a bit because I didn't know the people that well.
It's hard to trust
So
someone.
we started with this older lady that would come to our house, but I didn't feel really great about it because I didn't know her that well. And when she left, all my cookie cutters disappeared.
Oh my God.
So then we had a very good friend babysit Danny, and she had a daughter about Danny's age. So they were playmates, and that worked out okay. That was much better. Felt a lot better about that situation.
How did you find your original babysitter?
Through the newspaper.
Okay.
And so I didn't feel good about that because
How do you vet someone?
I didn't
like
know
that?
her from Adam, and we interviewed her, but what do you find out? A big nothing, really. So
Whatever they want to say.
So your poor dad was kind of a guinea pig there with a young.
Aren't all firstborns, though? Like, we don't really know.
Yeah.
There's no manual that we get, you know? We just figure it out along the way.
Yeah, you try to do the best you can, and
Yeah. Now they have lactation consultants, like a full job to help you with.
and nanny agencies.
Yeah. Nanny shares, Facebook groups for finding people.
Lots more ways to vet people and
That's
learn
right.
about them.
that's right.
Well, it seems like you have a lot of wisdom that you brought to your second and third children, which is not for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody learns, even with all the support, there's a learning curve.
Yeah. Grandpa Max said that you were talking about memories in the car on the way here. Was there anything that you felt like you wanted to share? Any other important memories?
Well, all three kids had the same parents, but you're different people at each time. And even though I think they were raised almost the same, you're different, they're different, and they all developed their own interests and were individual people. They weren't clones of each other. They were each individual, and they had their own strengths. Danny played with Tinker toys and costumes and things like that, and drums. And Andy played with Legos a lot, and Sarah did Legos also, and Andy's more mechanical, and they're all different people. So,
Did you feel like you nurtured them the same way?
yeah, I felt like we did, because Danny got to go to a preschool that was really good, and had a lot of activities for him. Andy got to go and build things at his preschool, and Sarah liked the same preschool Andy went to. It was at the community college, and I feel like we gave them the same kind of stimulation. We all went to concerts. We went to library story times.
Yeah, like, so no matter, like, whatever approach you have, they are going to turn out their own unique way.
That's
because of
right.
genetics and personality and temperament. And it's kind of, you really don't have that much control, as much control as you might think. Yeah.
That can be one of the challenges.
Yeah. When when your son, my dad, said that my mom was going to have a home birth with me, what did you think about that?
Wow, they're brave. Wow. But they were pretty unique individuals, so I figured they know what they're doing. And I thought, wow, she's really brave to be doing this. And it was an incredible experience for us just to witness, not that we were there, but just to witness through their stories of how it all happened and how she was sitting in grandma's chair to give birth. And I think they even did a water bath or something. And I thought it was pretty amazing and that she was very brave.
Yeah, was that the first time you had heard of a home birth?
Yes. But I knew they were two unique individuals, and whatever they decided to do was going to be okay.
Sort of trusted them to whatever they were going to do, they were going to figure it out.
Yeah, they were smart people, so I knew that if they thought this was good, it must be good for them.
Yeah, they did a lot of things against the grain.
I know that home births are a pretty safe option now, but I don't really have much an idea of how things like that were when people your parents' age were giving birth.
Yeah, it was pretty unusual.
It was illegal?
You never heard of it.
Oh, wow.
So
they must have felt really strongly then.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah, wow.
I'm wondering if you, Grandma, if there was anything about the way birth is now that you wished you had access to or wished was different about the culture back then. Would you have chosen a home birth or a birthing center birth or hospital birth?
That's also different because it was only the hospital.
Yeah, that's all that was available.
That's all I knew.
Yeah.
So I think it would be nice to be in a woman's hospital where birth was really celebrated and you had a lot of support and a lot of people coming to give you helpful hints. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Did anyone come talk to you about this birth experience that happened, or did you talk with your friends? Like, how did you prepare for birth or process it afterwards?
Well, my husband and I knew we didn't want to have a baby right away. So we waited 2.5 years. And because I was excited about having a baby, we started taking classes at a community college about giving birth. And I wasn't even pregnant, but we went and learned a lot. And then when I did get pregnant, we went back to the same class. And
is that typical of people?
No, it wasn't typical.
That too.
Yeah. What made you want to do that?
I just wanted to be the best mother I could be. And so I wanted to know how to do it, how to do it best. And then the teacher even invited us back to give lessons on breastfeeding.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know nothing, yes, which I knew nothing much. But she had us come back and talk to the class.
Wow. Well, it seems like you, at each step, took advantage of whatever resources were available to you.
That's right.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. I would probably have been the same way. I mean, it's even now with how many resources there are, it just feels like people should know more about this huge thing that they get into. And then you're pregnant and you're going to give birth. And it's like, good luck. And then you go home with a baby. Good luck.
Yeah. Were you scared to give birth the first time?
Yeah, I was a little bit scared, but I knew what was going to happen. And I knew about episiotomies. And yeah, I didn't know a doctor would leave me.
Yeah.
and not come back to stitch me up. But yeah.
So he never came back?
I think he did eventually.
Did you feel like, especially like having man doctors, that they sort of looked down on you and were sort of more authoritative in those situations? Or did you feel more supported by them?
I didn't feel like I had any support from him. And the fact that he raised monkeys and dressed them, no, I didn't feel like he was an authority. No.
Did you feel like you trusted your body in the moment, or was there somebody else coaching you through it?
Nurses were there.
Yeah. Right. You know, as I prepared, I really wanted a provider that felt like I could trust and
Right.
could help give education and emotional support. And that part is so important. And
Yeah.
Did you feel that the nurses were more of an emotional support or were?
Oh, no.
No.
No, they weren't enough.
yeah.
They were doing their job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is very
Cold.
procedural and cold and scientific. And now there's, whole, like the doula role provides a lot of emotional support.
Yes, that's wonderful.
How was, when Sarah gave birth, or I don't know if you were at Andy's or my dad's, like present during any of those birth times, but I imagine you were there for Sarah, my aunt, your daughter. What was it like to see your own child go through that? And what kind of support did you feel compelled to give, or wisdom or advice? Or, you went through this yourself, and now the next generation is going through this. And was there anything you wanted to pass on?
Well, it was very thrilling to go through it with my daughter. And I remember, I wish I had been able to be there when Danny gave birth, or Eve did, and when Andy did, and his wife, but they were across the country. But Sarah was in my hometown, and I did get to be in the waiting room the whole time. And it was great fun to see this new human being that made me a grandmother. That was part me too. And it was thrilling. And I loved babysitting. I loved being at the house and helping Sarah with housework and just babysitting so she and her husband could go out and be on a date. Yeah, it was great fun. Great fun watching them grow up and changing diapers again and watching Sarah breastfeed. And yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah. Now you're here visiting your great-grandchild.
My great-granddaughter and watching her fabulous mother do everything right.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we try doing the best we can. But
it's so great that you know what a baby needs and you stimulate her so well.
Well, I think I would argue that was passed on through you, and my dad watching Grandpa doing things probably instilled within me that as a woman I can have a lot of the same things that men can have, and empowered me and gave me confidence. I think, it was passed down in one way.
We started taking classes at the junior college on early childhood education. I had gotten so many units. My husband said, it's your turn to go to school. And so I became a teacher. But it was all because I had so many units in early childhood education. Oh, wow. And I learned a lot about what kids need. I loved it.
I feel like something that's talked about a lot nowadays is breaking the cycle and generational, stuff in regards to really anything, like looking at your parents and deciding like, oh, I'm going to take this, but I'll leave that because it doesn't serve me. And it seems like that's sort of your story. You like broke some of the cycles in terms of, gender roles and things like that. And it has had like a ripple effect into Sophie, your family. I mean, it's obviously it's not directly correlated necessarily, but I mean, every little bit has influenced your life in some way. And I think that's just really cool to think about. Yeah. How does it feel when you look at your great-grandchild in terms of your connection to her?
Oh, I'm in awe that I get to see her, to even have a great-grandchild, and to see Sophie, my granddaughter, being such a wonderful mother, and the husband she picked, a wonderful father. And yeah.
You really did.
Thank you.
I feel really good about it.
I agree with all of these compliments.
Yeah. It means a lot to have you come visit, and you've come twice now, and thanks for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
And coming on here too. We have 2 questions that we ask everybody who comes on. What advice would you give to somebody who's just about to give birth?
Enjoy the moment, because you're creating a human being that has so much potential and can be anything, and just enjoy the moment and all the possibilities. Just love your baby the best you can.
Yeah, that's good advice.
I like that. Our last question is, what's something that makes you laugh about either any of your births or being a parent?
Or grandparent.
Yeah.
Or great-grandparent.
That makes me laugh. I love the antics that little babies do. I love their expressions. I love showing them new things, because after they're grown up a little bit, then nothing's new to them. But when they're young, you can show them so much. And that's when their brain is really growing. And I love that part.
There's so much wonder.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny and I were saying that the other day. We try to go on really slow walks, like even one sidewalk stretch. And you can just go very slowly and look at the little water droplets
That's
on the
right.
leaves and the sun shining through and this little critter. And she loves it.
Yeah.
And you get to look at the world differently.
Right.
Yeah. It's a
Stop and listen to trains up close. And
Yeah.
yeah.
You're
Enjoy the little things
enjoying the
along with them.
little things, which is nice. Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, thank you. Good advice. And
We really appreciate you telling your stories and talking
you're
to
welcome.
us. It's been really nice to hear your
Good.
stories.
yeah, I look forward to listening back on this.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll press stop. Unless there's anything else you want to share.
We're talking 50 years ago, almost. We just loved being parents. That's all I can say. We loved showing Danny things and his Sarah and Andy, and we just loved it.
I like the perspective of what memories stick around for 50 years, like that sort of telling as to what really impacted you in that time, because that's what stands out. It's nice to hear. And it sounds like a lot of it is positive.
Yeah. We had good times.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
thank
press
you.
stop. Bearing Birth is available on all major podcast streaming services. We invite you to subscribe as well as follow us on Instagram at Bearing Birth Podcast.